Hello everyone and welcome to the second match between Magnus Carlsen and Daniil Liren. Yesterday Magnus won game 6, it was a blitz game, and with that game he won the match, and now Ding needs to retaliate in this match to force match 3 and hopefully reach the finals of the 2020 Chessable Masters. However, this is a position from game 1, and already in game 1 something interesting happened. I decided to only show you the position from game 1, and then we're gonna cover game 3 actually. But yeah, this is the position from game 1, and in this position after rook to c8, Ding replied with queen to b3. He offered a queen trade and he wants to escort his pawn up the board. However, this loses the game terribly, and now feel free to pause the video and find the win for Magnus while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting the, well, fairly simple tactic. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's rook to c1 check. Somehow Ding missed this, and well, he was in this position after rook to c1 on move 66 that Ding Liren resigned game 1. Point is that you're in check and you have nothing. If you capture the rook, then you lose the queen, and if you don't, if you just move the king, let's say king g2, then just queen captures on b1, and it's well, just a game over. You are up a full rook and white has no counterplay. So that's what happened in game 1. In game 2, where Magnus had the white pieces, that game was a draw, and now we go into game 3, where Ding again has the white pieces, and he first needs to equalize to just get back into this match and then hopefully win it to force match 3. So let's see what happens. Ding sticks to his English opening, so he goes for c4. We have e5 by Magnus, and now g3. We have d5, the very early d5, very popular. We have c captures, queen captures, now attacking the rook on h1, and knight to f3 now blocking. And you have to be very careful not to overextend with the pawn, since knight c3 just makes it a very annoying position for black. You still have to keep an eye on your pawn, then the other knight comes after you, and after you move, attack, let's say the knight, then e3, and all you've done basically is helped white to develop. So after knight f3, we have knight to c6, and now knight to c3. Pushes Carlsen's queen back. We have queen back all the way to d8, and the bishop to g2 now is ready to castle. We have knight f6, and here comes castles. And now this position has been reached before plenty of times. The bishop to c5 is the main move here in this position. However, Magnus plays h6, and h6 is a new move in the position, so already as of move 7 we have a completely new game. So Ding continues. We have d3, doesn't allow e4 at any point, and also prepares e4 at some point. Bishop to d6 now by Magnus, still not going for bishop to c5, he has some different ideas. We have a3, taking away the b4 square from black's pieces, preparing b4, bishop to b2 to grab hold of this diagonal with the bishop, but now a5, Magnus doesn't allow b4, so b3, it's the way things are done. We have castles, and now bishop to b2. So Ding fianchettos both of his bishops, and he's very happy now with the white pieces. We have rook to e8 by Magnus. Again, looking at that e4 push. We have rook to c1, and now first bishop to f5. So just continuing development. We have h3, and queen to d7. Now preparing to capture on h3 here. So king h2, Ding defends it, and now knight to d4. And here Magnus says that he is in fact very happy, even though he has the black pieces. Point is, if the knight is captured, then you harass this knight, you kick it away, and this leaves white with a backwards e2 pawn, which will be a target, as you will not be able to push it. Or you could like play something like knight to a4 and then push e4, but Ding decides against this. So instead, knight back to d2 by Ding, and here c6 by Magnus, taking away d squares from the white knight, and now e3. Attacking the knight, knight b5, as c6 prepared that as well. We have knight captures, c captures, and now the b7 pawn is nicely protected, and Magnus gets the open c file for his rooks if needed. So knight to f3, now preparing ideas like d4, or maybe e4 and d4 later on. Now rook 8 to d8, still d3 is a backwards pawn, so Carlsen decides to put his forces towards the d pawn. Here we have e4 by Ding, pushing the bishop back, bishop to e6, and now the e5 pawn can be captured. However, Magnus will recapture the pawn afterwards. So here Ding goes for it. Bishop captures, 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 and now queen to d6 with a double attack. And here Magnus said, okay, I will lose a pawn in the center and I will allow you to have this past the d pawn. However, I will have the majority on the queen side and I will do my best to create a pass pawn on the queen side. So here f4, Ding defends the knight, and now queen captures on a3. And now the b3 pawn is also under attack, and Magnus Ding could defend it with something like rook to b1, but he prefers a more active plan. He plays d4. He sacrifices the b3 pawn to get the d5 in, and then he really starts pushing his pass pawn. So here Magnus goes for it. Bishop captures on b3. He says, I'm going to be faster on the queen side, as he now has two connected pass pawns on the queen side against Ding's massive center. So we have queen to d3. Now the bishop cannot move as the queen hangs on a3. So queen to b4 and now d5. So Ding got what he wanted. He created the pass d pawn, and it's a very strong pawn. So all you have to do basically is to push it. So here rook to c8. Magnus offers a trade of rooks, but now d6 as Magnus left the d6 square undefended. Now Magnus goes back, rook c to d8, as now there's a double attack on the knight here. On the pawn, obviously. And here, d7. So here, the rook is under attack. What do you do here? d7, in fact, loses the game for Ding. However, you need to pause the video and find the winning move for Magnus while I give you a couple of seconds. So for those of you who were able to do it, congratulations on spotting that it is much needed to give up a piece, but only temporarily. And for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, it's knight captures on d7. Just give up the knight and that wins the game. Very, very simple. So Ding captured the knight, but now comes bishop to c4, just attacking the queen and the rook. And here you don't have a lot. Like if you decide... you could decide to give up the exchange here with rook captures on c4, and it kind of does make sense, and queen d5 to keep an eye on the knight, but then queen e7 with a double attack, and now after the rook defends it, rook to d1, it seems like white was able to defend. He has two pieces for the rook. However, black has the passed c pawn, so c3, and the white will not be able to hold on to the knight. You cannot move it since you lose the queen. So here it doesn't really matter. e5, c2, and the rook now must leave the d file. Let's say rook c1, and now you simply capture here, and after everything is traded off, it's just a rook, two rooks against a rook and bishop, with black being up a pawn, but the two connected pass pawns on the queen side are completely winning. So it's not even close to try something like this. So after bishop to c4, Ding instead played queen to d1. He says, okay, you can have that. I'm going to defend my knight over here, but Magnus doesn't capture it. Magnus instead just goes queen to e7, and it was in this position that Ding Liren resigned the game. And as he already lost game 1, this means that he loses match 2, and by losing match 1, he now lost the match completely. And Magnus Carlsen is the first finalist of the 2020 Chessable Masters, and he awaits his opponent, which will be the victor of the match, Yanni Pomnishi versus Anish Giri. Here you resign because your rook is still under attack, and of course you will lose the piece here. So let's say you play rook to f2, just rook captures on d7, and there's not much to be done here. The queen is under attack. Once you move it, just a4, and it's well, not even playable for white. Yes, you didn't lose a piece or anything. It's still two rooks, white, two rooks, black, and both players have a bishop, but black is up 2 pawns, and those are 3 pawns that you can push here, and the Ding of course knows that you cannot hold this against Magnus. So yeah, after queen to e7, Ding resigned, and Magnus Carlsen is the first finalist of the 2020 Chessable Masters. So yeah, that's the game. I do hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Dan Zhang, Cameron Harrison, Alexandras Papis, Ramesh Kumar Rajan, and John Ologan for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. I really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing the coverage of the 2020 Chessable Masters, checking up on your wonderful suggestions, and whatever else happens in the chess world. So thank you all, I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day. And if you want to see something cool, do check the first link in the description below. See you soon.